What is happening, friends? It is time for the July market update and some interesting stuff going on statewide, some trends that are very different from what we've been seeing the last couple of months. So I'm going to jump right into it and bring up the data. And we're going to start as we normally do with the Big Island market data. And the big news on the Big Island is that one, inventory is up to 2113. So as we've been seeing, we just saw it crept up above 2000 last month. And so after being under 2000 units for a very, very long time, we're now above 2000 and continuing to increase month after month. But the interesting thing that we're going to focus in on really across all the islands here are the number of sales month over month. And I've been talking about this steady increase since the November of last year, where we've seen this little steady increase month over month. And then now there's this huge dramatic drop off in June. So in May, we had 441 sales. In June, we were down to 328. It hasn't been that low since November, December of last year. So the lowest month in sales that we've had in 6 months. And that's a pretty dramatic drop off. Don't know if that's a blip. Number of sales is a lagging indicator, right? The number of sales that happen in a month are a result of something that happened 45 to 60 days prior, because that's where less people went under contract. And so we'll see if this trend continues or if it's just a blip in the matrix. Normally, the buying season in Hawaii in the kind of spring timeframe is slow. So we do see that dip, but this is pretty dramatic. I mean, about a 30% decrease in the number of sales month over month. But if we look at overall kind of year-to-date numbers, what's very interesting is that we are not seeing like any type of crazy fall off in terms of the comparison of last year to date to this year to date. So if you look at the number of sales, we're almost exactly the same number of sales year to date as we were a year ago. So there's 994 a year ago year to date, and then there was 1004. So almost right on track. But median price is up. So median price from a year ago was just at 500,000. It is at 535 today, so an increase in median price. And this is year-to-date numbers, so we're comparing January to June. And so that's the Big Island. And then we're going to jump over to Kauai and see that it's pretty similar in terms of what's going on, just on a smaller scale, because Kauai has a lot fewer properties. But the active listings, right, we've been talking about active listings are up to 412. We were below 400 for many months, over almost 2 years. And so active listings are creeping up, inventory is creeping up. But if we look at the 12-month chart, just like we saw on the Big Island, the 12-month chart does the same exact thing. So the number of sales month over month creeping up since the ending of last year. There's been a steady increase. And then we got the 78 sales, which was the highest all in the last 12 months. Was the most sales that we've had was in May. And then in June, it dropped down to 58. So we saw that big drop in sales on the island of Kauai also. And then if we jump into the year-to-date numbers that we just looked at, same thing. So a number of sales is pretty even, a little bit stronger this year than it was last year to date. So 155 last year to date, 180 this year. And then the median price is 1.4 versus 1.1 a year ago, year to date. So this is the residential market, not taking into account land sales for this chart, but just overall, both islands, very similar. Lower inventory is rising, but huge drop off in the number of sales. And so now let's go to Oahu, or sorry, this is Maui. So we're gonna go to Maui first and look at number of homes for sale first. This is just over the last 12 months. You can get a comparison over what it looks like today versus the last 12 months. And we are up to 993, so almost 1,000 listings. So we've been seeing that steady increase in the number of homes for sale. And then closed sales, but same thing, big drop off over the last month. So there was 151 in May, and then in June there was 126. And you can kind of see number of closed sales is all over the place for Maui in the last 12 months, but somewhat steady if you average this thing out over the course of the last 12 months, you know, around that 150, 160 mark over the course of the last 12 months. But overall, if we look at the median sales price, steady increase, right? We had a little blip here, but the trend line has been steadily going up to 1.3 million. And so over the last 12 months, median price continues to increase, even though inventory is coming up and sales are down. Median price continues to be strong. And then this is always an interesting number to look at that I like to throw in here is months of supply. So Kauai is over 6 months of supply. So we're at 7.6 months of supply. That is technically a buyer's market. It's the only island that's happening on right now. So on Maui, if you are interested in buying something, you are in a better position inventory wise than you have been. Really, if you look at it, was down below 3 months a year ago. So very, very low inventory, and the inventory continues to rise. And based on the number of sales, we are technically in a buyer's market in Maui. Now let's look at Oahu and see how all of this compares. This is number of homes for sale. So inventory, again, steadily climbing over the last 12 months. We're at 2,609 active listings on the island of Oahu. And if we look at closed sales, same thing as all the rest of the islands, this big dramatic drop off. So there was 771 sales, which was the peak of the last since January, which was the low of 997. It's been steadily rising up until May. And then we saw this big drop off in June to 642 sales. So interesting across the board, every single island, we saw this big drop off in sales. But like the rest of the islands, if we look at median price over the last 12 months, some ups and downs, but on average been rising, and median price is as high as it's ever been. This is the average of the single family and condo market at 785. The single family home market's obviously going to be above $1 million, and the condo market is closer to the mid 500,000s, but the average is just under 800,000. And like we looked at months of supply on Maui, if you look, months of supply is still at 410, which is under 6 months, and means that we are still in a seller's market on Oahu. So overall, very interesting, consistent trend across the board for all of the islands in terms of inventory is increasing, but number of sales fell off pretty dramatically. And we'll see if that trend continues. Again, sometimes there can just be a off month in the data, but we're going into the summer season where there are more visitors, and normally we put more things under contract in the summer season, so that additional inventory could get soaked up pretty quickly. We'll see what July and August numbers bring. But if you have any questions, you can always email me at dylan@buybigisland.com. There is always a link in the comments below to book a meeting if you want to have a consultation about your specific situation. And if you want to see a more detailed breakdown of the market data in the area that you live, because of course there are sub markets in every island, and this is a real generalization of what's going on in the island as a whole, we can absolutely break that down and provide you with that information. So as always, thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you guys next month with the market report. Aloha.